This is another question that a lot of people have, because they're like, well, you were talking about cash flow earlier, and how much money did you start with is part of the first part of this question. But the reason why I'm going to ask you this is because I want people to see that it doesn't matter, different people start at different levels with different amounts of money.
Right. Yeah, I was a bootstrapper, which means I didn't have a whole lot of money, and I didn't have any kind of financial means to fund a startup of a business, which is why I had not done it up until that point. I knew how to do it. I'd been trained for that, but I just didn't have the money that it required. Then along comes Amazon, and you don't need very much money, because if you can start with whatever you have, basically. When I started, I had $300 in cash, and that was money. That didn't come out of I didn't have money in my household budget, because I got started, of course, after hubby's paycheck stopped. So that came from selling things on eBay. So I had sold some stuff on eBay, and I'd saved it, and so that was the money I used to start with. And in addition, I sold things from around my house. I purged like you wouldn't believe. I found every single thing I could find. My kids' toys they weren't using anymore, things that are in good condition, because you can sell used items on Amazon depending on what it is. So I sold a lot of used toys. I sold tons of board games that we like little kids board games, because my kids were between 6 and 9 at the time. And all CDs, DVDs, movies, whatever I could find around the house. The other thing I sold was I started selling off my stockpile of food, because I had gotten really good at couponing. I was getting a lot of stuff for free. I could have like 15 bottles of mustard if I wanted to, and I didn't have to pay more than maybe 10 cents a bottle. Now, my family can only eat so much mustard, and you don't need to, I wasn't an end of the world. I wasn't doing it because of, end of the world stockpiling. I was doing it to save money. So I would forego getting so many mustards, even though I could. Once I got into Amazon, I thought, I could go ahead and get those 20 mustards if I want to, because I can sell them. And so I began selling off what I already had in my pantry to get money, to reinvest. And from that point, all I did was I sold what I had, got the money back, and I reinvested. I did not use any of the money to live on personally for a while. I just made ends meet with what I made from my job, and I used all the money I would get back from Amazon, and I would just reinvest. And I did this every single time I got a disbursement, I would just go buy more inventory and send it in. And that's the snowball effect. And anyone who wants to build this business, they can do it that way. It does require, like I said, you have to be able to not touch the money. Like, you can use some of the money to pay for, obviously you have to buy supplies, tape and boxes and things like that. But as long as you spend the majority of it back on inventory, you can build your capital up to where it can be a full-time income. It took me 2 years of doing that. But after 2 years, I actually, and that was one thing that one of the things I teach other people actually in my coaching program. One of the biggest things people need to know how to do is they've got to know their numbers. You have to know, well, how much money do I need to have for capital in order, like, let's say you wanted to go full-time in your business, and transition out of working 9 to 5 into your full-time business. You have to hit a certain money goal. Like, you have to have X dollars of capital. Depends on your budget and how much you need to generate for yourself to live on. But that skill, like learning how to figure that out, that's the whole key to being able to transition from working for someone else to working for yourself.
Yes, it is. I remember last year, that was one of the things during Q4, because I was so focused on reaching a specific goal, and every month I was crunching those numbers to make sure that I was on track to meet that goal. And yeah. Let me tell you, by doing that and being focused on that, I didn't know it was preparing me for some unforeseen occurrence that was going to happen in my life, but it saved my butt. That's all I'm going to say. It saved me good.
Yeah, because without that, unfortunately, a lot of people get into this business and they're working really hard and they're shopping and shipping and shopping and shipping and they just don't ever seem to get where they want to be. And they don't understand why. They're like, I'm working really hard and I'm making sales, so why can't I? And I was at that point where I was frustrated. It's like, how come I just can't move to the next level? And it was because at the time I was so busy shopping and shipping and then going to work, I really didn't take the time to sit down and do the number part. Like, I didn't plan out the numbers as I knew I should be doing. I had not done it. And once I did, once I sat down and said, okay, that's it, or I'm making a plan and I'm going to monitor this all the way through. And once I did that, it was just the shift of focus. I wasn't doing anything different. I was still buying the same stuff and shipping in and selling, but my focus changed everything. And once I started focusing, I made better decisions on sourcing, and I was more efficient in my operations, and it got me to the level I needed to be.
So the point here is it doesn't matter how much money you have to get started.
Mm-mm.
The planning and goal setting and making sure that you're working towards those goals and knowing your numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the concept called time value of money. You can get wherever you want to go. It's just a matter of time.
Yes, and sometimes you're just going to have to be patient and roll with
Yeah.
the time.
Now, someone who has $10,000 to start off with, well, they're going to get to their goal a lot quicker, most likely, if they still have to have a plan, though, and they still have to know they still have to know their numbers and understand that part of it, because otherwise that money can disappear very, very quickly, and they're like, where did it all go?
Yeah.
So no matter where you start, you can hit any goal, and you can start with any amount of money. It is really just a matter of knowing what steps you need to take, what you need to focus on, and then you will get there at a point in time.
Great. And this leads me into my next question. We may have even touched on your answer to this, but